So in the last two back to basics type videos that I made, we talked a lot about streaming and streamers, but we need to get that stream converted into analog so that we can then feed it into our loudspeaker or our headphone system. So I want to address some of that today, how we do that. And I think we should start with something that everybody knows, and that's this 3.5mm jack here. So this is connected to an amplifier down here that has an analog input, red and white RCAs. You should be familiar with that. That's the amplifier, right? This is an analog cable. Many people will know that you can just get great sound-ish from a phone connected straight into an amplifier like this. Now in this particular scenario, the phone is a streamer because we can run Spotify, SoundCloud, Tidal, all sorts on it. But it's also a DAC because there's a DAC inside this because there must be a DAC because it has an analog output in the headphone socket. So this is a streaming DAC. So too is my laptop. This is a streaming DAC. I can run Qobuz, Tidal, Spotify, any kind of audio on my laptop. It converts the stream into analog using a very basic DAC circuit in here, spits it out analog, and it goes into my amp, right? So I think everybody's pretty much okay with those ideas that a laptop and a phone is a streaming DAC. Now, I'm just going to change the cable because our next streaming DAC does not talk to a 3.5mm socket. So I'm hooking a different kind of cable into my amplifier here. Still analog, all analog, but just this one has twin RCAs. And I would use this to connect to my Sonos Connect, which is now end of life, I believe. So this Sonos is a streaming DAC. There's a streamer inside that captures Qobuz, Tidal, Spotify, all sorts of streaming services, right? It plays catch-on streams, converts them to analog, and spits them out through here. Now the problem with my laptop is the DAC in here does not sound very good. It might be the chip, it might be the power supply, it might be the output stage, it might be all three. So what we're going to do now instead is we're going to circumvent that DAC. So we're going to just turn this into a streamer, effectively. So we're going to pull the digital signal out so that it doesn't pass through the MacBook's own DAC. And I'm going to do that by hooking in a USB cable into here. So we all know that USB is digital, right? So I'm taking the digital signal out of my MacBook. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to feed it into an external DAC. This is the Modi 3 from Schiit. I use it a lot in these videos because it's small and it has 3 different digital inputs. We are going to use the USB input here, like that. So what's happening is this DAC is now pulling the digital audio out of the MacBook. It does the decoding to analog. So DAC means digital to analog converter. Converts digital to analog. So the digital comes out of the MacBook into this. And then we would feed our amplifier. Again, these things here, right? And they go red and white into here, like that, you see. So we've externalized the digital analog conversion process. $100 sounds a lot better than just using the DAC inside my MacBook. Now we can also do this with my phone. My phone's an Android phone, so it's USB-C here. Now it's also talking to the Schiit Modi 3. So I'm no longer using the DAC inside this phone. This is just a Spotify streamer or a Tidal streamer or a Qobuz streamer, SoundCloud streamer. Digital comes out of the USB socket here, goes along this cable, goes all the way into the Schiit DAC. The Schiit DAC does the DA conversion, spits the analog out here, and then this goes into my amp. Next, we need to talk about our Sonos Connect. There is no USB-C output on this. So we need to use a different kind of digital audio connection method. Now, one of those is something called Toslink, which is essentially the optical version of this coaxial thing here, but don't get hung up on that. This is just a way of pulling digital audio out of this Sonos Connect. And we do that again for the same reasons that we did it with the phone and the laptop, is that I don't like the DA conversion that the Sonos provides. I do like what the Schiit provides, so I need to get the digital signal from the Sonos into my Schiit DAC, and I'm going to do that with this optical cable. So I connect that to the Toslink input of my DAC, like that. So now this Toslink input is pulling ones and zeros from the Sonos Connect, thus bypassing the Sonos Connect's own internal DAC, and this is doing the DA conversion. And then the analog signal comes out of here and then off into the amplifier. Now, lastly, one more thing is that in many of my videos you will see this. This is essentially a Raspberry Pi with a hat on top. A hat means hardware attached on top, I think. So another board. And this has digital outputs here. So what this board is doing is it's pulling the digital audio up from the Raspberry Pi and spinning it out here. So there's no, well, there is a DAC in here actually. Somewhere there's a headphone socket, yes. There's a headphone socket here. This sounds awful, absolutely awful. So I could, you know, where I started this video, I could just go headphone socket out of that and that into my amp. But it's horrible. I could go USB. I could connect the USB cable into my Schiit Modi 3. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go from here. So what this means. Coax out of this Pi. Remember, this is the streamer, and we're pulling ones and zeros out of this streamer. So this streamer could be a Roon Ready endpoint, it could be a UPnP endpoint, AirPlay endpoint, Spotify Connect endpoint. So we come out of that all the way along this cable. Guess where this cable's going to go? It's going to go into our Schiit DAC, into this input here. So the Schiit DAC is pulling the ones and zeros from the Pi using this cable, doing the DA conversion, sending the analog signal out down the green cable into the amp. So what I'm saying here is that, what am I saying here? Is that external DACs are often a mystery for many people. But the reason we apply them is because the internal DACs and the devices that we already have don't sound great, or we want something better. So in order to do that, we have to extract the digital audio from our existing device, thus bypassing its own DAC, so that we can then send those ones and zeros into our external DAC before it does the DA conversion, sends it out to our amp. Wow. It does get pretty complicated pretty easily, doesn't it? I can see why people find this very confusing, because you've got USB, Toslink, coax. So USB, Toslink and coax, the main connections that we see for digital audio systems. Now, most people are familiar with USB because they use printers and hard drives that way. But when you get into sort of third-party streamers like Sonos, like these Raspberry Pis, coax and Toslink become more common. However, if you want to get like the best sound out of your TV, right? Most TVs, most of them nowadays, have a Toslink socket somewhere on them. So you get a Toslink cable like this. I almost went cross-eyed looking at that. You get a Toslink cable like this, and you just connect it into an external DAC, and then connect that external DAC into your hi-fi system. Of course, if you use an AV receiver, you're going to be using HDMI, or maybe still Toslink, and there's a pretty decent DAC inside your AV receiver. Then the question becomes, for many people, does the Schiit Modi 3 sound better than the DAC inside my AV receiver? My answer is I've got no idea, never tried it. I don't do AV receivers, but I'm just trying to point out that if you do want to get decent sound out of your telly, that's very English of me, out of your TV, Toslink is the way to go. If you want to get better sound out of your MacBook or your phone, USB is probably the way to go. And then for streamers like the Pi and the Sonos Connect, you can try coax, you can try Toslink, see which one sounds the best for you. I hope that didn't make things even more confusing than they already are. I hope that clarified why we deploy an external DAC. If you liked this video and you got something out of it, please hit the thumbs up button down below. We will be doing more of these back to basics things. I'm probably just going to stick to streamers though and DACs because that's where I'm most comfortable. I don't know a lot about preamplifiers and amplifiers. I'm not an audio engineer. That's where my technical understanding gets a little bit hazy. So please understand that. So I'd rather operate in a realm in which I know about things to a reasonable degree. So yeah, that's today's video. Thank you ever so much for... Did I ask them to subscribe to the channel? No, I didn't, did I? Please subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.